Hey folks, thank you for joining us. We were just waiting for a few folks a few late stragglers to join us, but we'll go ahead and get started with the webinar today. Thank you for joining us. This is our series of QNAP partner reseller webinars. I'm Eric Olivros, part of the sales and marketing team, and I'm joined with Deval Panara, who's our product manager.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
And big welcome to those who are new to our reseller webinar series. We have a monthly webinar where we're talking about different topics, new topics, solutions, features, stuff that'll make life easier for our QNAP partners out there. Different opportunities, different sales opportunities, different new stuff that you can discuss with your customers. And today we'll be talking about exploring MSP services with QNAP. So with QNAP, especially in the last few years with the addition of our switches, we've been striving to be a one-stop shop hardware-wise and feature-wise for our MSP partners out there to continue to develop new ways to generate revenue streams by offering an umbrella of services that you can offer to their customers with the QNAP NAS. So today we'll be talking about a few cool MSP SLA service offerings. What's on our agenda today? We'll be talking about on-premise management with our QCenter application. We'll be talking about managing NAS security, network security behind NAT routers. We'll have a live demo and we'll have a Q&A at the end. So without any further ado, let's get started. So on-premise management with QCenter. So QCenter, just a quick intro to that, is an application that we designed for medium to large enterprises with hundreds or thousands of NAS devices. QCenter provides a central management platform that simplifies managing multi-site NAS. It's simple, it's convenient, it's flexible. It's just one application on your QNAP NAS where you can manage different devices through several different QNAP devices. So cool thing about this. So major features for QCenter is a firmware update. So all you have to, excuse me, got a frog in my throat here. As you all may have noticed recently, we've had some security issues. Many companies trying to stay on top of their security. That's important, and part of monitoring your customer's NAS is really important. Security issues arise most of the time due to older firmware or OS on devices, and what we have seen is usually customers do not prioritize updating their firmware. So you have a lot of customers out there who have their QNAP NAS that they don't follow their firmware updates, and because of that, we have different bug patches for security. They're not taking advantage of the firmware updates, and unfortunately, their NAS becomes vulnerable. So we've seen some devices, with year-old firmware, which can cause extreme security vulnerabilities. So with QCenter, you can monitor your customer's device firmware. You can, from the application, you can see different QNAP NASs, and you can monitor them and see if they need different firmwares. You can update their firmware remotely. You can also use our security newsletter to stay on top of new important firmware when it's released. So firmware updates, so what's important about firmware updates is key to data security. I mean, we have different patches, different security updates, different feature updates as well. So with your firmware updates, you make sure that your QNAP NAS is up to date pretty much all the way around. You get updates, as mentioned, with security patches. We have our security advisor feature, which pretty much looks at the health of your NAS, your security vulnerabilities of your NAS. And when you have new updates, your security advisor gets updated as well. Making firmware updates are really simple. You can simply look at the firmware menu on your QNAP NAS, and it'll tell you up to date if your firmware is up to date or if you need to get new firmware updates. So monitoring drive status, another important feature that you can provide with QCenter is monitoring drive status for your customers. So with QCenter, you can monitor a drive that is about to go bad or has already gone bad. You can then schedule a technician to go out to customer's site and replace the drives as if your customer is comfortable replacing the drive by himself, or you can just ship them the drives. In this way, you can prevent any major issues or multiple drive failures at the same time, and eventually data loss.
All right, so next we're going to be looking at monitoring storage usage. So especially for resellers, when another service you can provide in your monitoring under umbrella is monitoring the customer's storage usage. So you can the Q Center has the ability to see how much storage the customer is using, and if they hit 90%, you can get notified that your the customer A has reached 90% of their storage usage. So you can proactively contact the customer to let them know that their storage is almost full, and recommend them either to delete some data, or because the storage usage needs are increasing, you can actually recommend adding additional drives if they have some spare drives in their QNAP NAS, or you can add an expansion. Now we have a whole list of expansions that you can choose between, that you can connect to your QNAP NAS and add additional drives, so you can expand the customer storage. So you don't need to so they don't run out of space, and then they can keep having additional space if and when needed. So you can monitor this for your customers, so the customers do not have to worry about that. What we've seen in the past is, or most of our QNAP NAS customers do not log into to their NAS at all, if they're using it for certain services like file services or iSCSI services. They don't log into their NAS to see what's going on with their NAS. So they don't even know that they hit their storage full, and then they only check when there's slower performance, because when your storage gets full, especially when it reaches about 95% and more, the QNAP NAS tends to slow down a little bit because it needs to handle all that additional space. Uh, so the QNAP NAS will affect performance. Additionally, when it completely gets full, QNAP they won't be able to access, or they won't be able to write any data. Sometimes they won't be able to access any data if this 100% full. So to avoid that particular scenario, you can always contact the customer proactively when the QNAP is reaching 90%, and then you can get notified. Instead of logging to your Q Center every single day, you can get notified if a customer reaches 90% of the space, so you don't need to worry about that. So that's an additional option that you can provide from your customer. For under for security reasons, now QCenter does not require port forwarding or VPN. You can access the customer's QNAP NAS for monitoring without having to open any ports. We now support QLink to access your NAS remotely from customers' location. So customers do not need to compromise their security, especially the firewall security, to provide you the access to monitor their NAS. So monitoring is a great tool that you can now provide without having to open any ports or without having to require a VPN connection. So that's another great feature that QCenter provides. Next, we'll be looking at a quick demo on what you can actually do with QCenter. So let's get started. First of all, the QCenter again is an application that you can download from our website under QNAP.com. Let me first show you where you can download it from. You can download under support, and then desktop utilities, and then you can look for enterprise. Now, QCenter can be installed at multiple locations. QCenter can be, so if you already have a QNAP NAS, you can actually install the application within the QNAP NAS already. Just look up QCenter from your App Center on your QNAP NAS, or if you don't have a QNAP NAS at your location, you can just install it in a hypervisor via the Hyper-V option or the VMware as well. So you can install that, but if you already have a QNAP NAS, you can just install QCenter via the QNAP NAS. So just look up App Center. But yes, you can also install QCenter as a standalone VMware Hyper-V appliance as well. But you can always look up under App Center, look for QCenter. QCenter is the server application that you can install on your NAS as well. So if you already have a NAS and you don't want to, but you don't have a VMware Hyper-V setup, you can just install it on that NAS and manage all your other devices as well, all your customers' devices from a single location. But if you have a VMware Hyper-V installation at your location, you can just download uh, you can download that. Or if you don't have a VMware Hyper-V, and you also don't have a QNAP NAS, you can download the VMware application and just download the free application called VMware Workstation Player, and then just set up your Q Center from that. So that's what I've done right here. My Q Center is running on that VMware Player and it's running on that device. And then once you have installed, you can see your IP address, and from there you can access your devices. Now here I have a dashboard that shows all my QNAP NAS, all my customers' QNAP NASs. Um, what can you monitor on your QNAP NAS? If there is any abnormal server in your list, it will show you here as well. So you can click on that and see what's going on with that. Why is it abnormal? So you can see if everything here looks normal, maybe go to storage, and then right here you can see host disk 1 is in warning status. So it's not failed yet, it's still in warning status. So that's a great feature about QNAP. Before QNAP, because QNAP follows, or QNAP looks at your QNAP looks at the smart status of the disk. QNAP can predict even before the disk has actually failed. So for your customers, the great advantage of that is, instead of uh, waiting for the disk to get failed or failed disk, you can just when you see a warning status, you will get an email regarding that warning status saying that one of the NAS has a disk that's about to go bad. So you can schedule a technician to go out at the location to replace that disk. Or um, if the customer is comfortable enough, you can just ship drive, and they can just remove the failed drive and then just um, replace it with a new drive. So the advantage of having this is uh, you don't have to wait for the disk to actually go bad. So because when a disk goes bad, especially when it's a RAID 5 system and another disk goes bad at the same time, you will lose all of your data. So especially for RAID 5 systems, you want to make sure that you replace the drive as soon as possible. If for RAID 6 and others, you can have multiple disk failures, but why um, why take a risk of going to that scenario? Make sure you replace a disk before it fails. So here you can see the abnormal status of any servers. You can also see abnormal disk status. If there's an abnormal disk, it will show up here. Right here, I have one of my NASs, or one of my customer NASs has a disk failure, so it will show up here as well. Um, you can also see how many customers are using the pool usage over 60%. So you can also keep track of that. So you have a customer that has 100%. So I want to contact this customer, let them know that their storage is used 100%, and I want to contact them and let them know that they want to probably want to have to upgrade their hard drives or add additional storage by adding an expansion base. So I can see the utilization of all my customers' devices from a single location. So this is again a single page to see all of your customers, um, uh, what's going on with their customers. If there's any alerts from their customers, you can also see that on their same page. But on the main page, you can see all your customers, if everything is working fine, how many servers are working okay, how many servers are having some issues. You can see all of that here. You can see all of the list of your customers, the status of the customers. You can see all the firmware versions as well. So you can keep track of the firmware versions as well. You can also, another great feature is firmware update. So as you've all known that recently there's always a risk of having attacked if there's a firmware update that's not available. It's an older version of the firmware, right? So you want to make sure that if you have a firmware update from a customer's for a customer's NAS, you want to make sure you contact them and let them know there's a firmware update, and you can either have them update the firmware, or you can actually do it from here as well. So you see there's downloads available. You can actually just click this button to download, and then you can just click on the NAS and then click on update, and it will update that firmware for that customer. So you can update that from your QCenter location, from a single location, see all your NAS customers devices, and make sure that you can update all of them. You can also select all of them and you can update. So if the customer has multiple NAS, you can select multiple NAS and just click on update, and it will update that device, all of that device from a single click. So that's another great feature. And if you keep So as Eric mentioned before, there's our security there's a security newsletter that we send out. If there's any update, you will get notified via an email. There is a firmware update available for certain devices. So once you see that, you can actually let the customer, you can proactively let the customer know there's a firmware update available. And it's a major firmware update because it fixes a lot of security holes within the operating system. So you want to let the customer know. Again, what we have seen is customers do not log into their NAS. They don't even know. We have seen customer using multi-year-old firmware for on their devices, and not few of them. A lot of our customers do not update their firmware or do not keep track of what firmware they're running on their devices. So you can provide as an SLA service to make sure that you can keep track of the firmware that's available on your devices and make sure that you proactively let the customer know that there's new firmware update available, and you want to make sure that they update their software. So you can keep track of that as a service you can provide to your customer. And for you, you can do the notification as well. So whenever, because you can either keep this screen open and keep track of all, what's going on, or you can see or you can just get notified if there's anything that is happening, right? So if there's anything abnormal within the server, you can get notified about that as well. So if a disk is about to go bad, you can actually get a notification of that within your email. So you can, let's set up a new notification. So let's say disk failure. So you can see what email address you want to get notified to, and then you can see, you want to make sure you select all the servers, and then you can add a criteria. So criteria would be um, server abnormality. You can duration would be, let's say, 1 minute, um, and then resend period, just say 1 minute, and repeat times, we just want to have one email for that, and severity is an warning. Once you've clicked OK, hit OK, and that will, so now you'll get notified if there is any abnormality within your server. So if a disk goes bad, you'll get notified about that as well. Let me give you a quick example of how a notification will look like when you get notified from your QNAP Q Center. So once you have an email, so if there's any disk that's about to go bad, you will get notified. If the customer reaches uh, space usage, you will get notified as well. So right here, there's an example of an email that I've received from my Q Center, saying that the Q Center, the Q Center IP address, but mainly the server name. So which name the customer is using, you will get notified about that. So this is a server that is reaching 90% or greater than 90%. So because I have set up a notification that my server, when it gets full, send me a notification. So that is an example of notification you will receive from your customer. So that's another great example you can actually provide. Another great feature is monitoring as well. You can actually monitor logs, especially what I meant by is server connection logs. If a customer comes to you saying that there's a file that is missing, you can actually log into your Q Center and see all the logs, especially server connection logs, and see who is logging in and what are they actually accessing on that device. So you can actually look at who's accessing what file in their NAS, and then you can let them know that during this particular date and time, somebody logged in, um, like an admin logged in, and then access certain file within their location. You can also, if there's other devices, you can also see who logged in at what NAS and what time they logged in as. So you can get a detailed notification as well, or detailed information of who's logging into your NAS and what are they accessing. So you can also provide that as a feature as well. You can also create reports for CPU utilization or monitoring fan speed as well. So if there's a disk failure, or sorry, disk temperature or system temperature increasing, you can also be notified as well. So those are the great features that you can actually get from Q Center. All right. Next, I want to talk about is our new Adra NDR, which is a smart edge switch with security functions. It's actually a switch. It's a switch that acts as a security devices with security functions in that. So it will do adaptive threat detection. So what this switch does is that it will actually look at all your packets being sent from your computers to from internet to computers, from computers to computers. It will see all the packets that have been sent. If there's um, any kind of a threat that it detects on that packet, like somebody clicks on a phishing email, that will be a threat that has been detected. Or so when somebody tries to click on a phishing email and um, the computer gets infected, the Adra NDR will start to isolate that computer from your network. So it will remove that computer from your network, so it does not infect other devices within your network. This is especially used for ransomware attacks. So whenever there's a phishing email that's being sent to you and you click on that phishing email, the first thing it does is that it will start scanning your network for other devices in that network, so it can start infecting that other devices. So in that early stages, the Adra NDR will actually start to block that computer to scan other devices. As soon as it starts scanning your network, the Adra NDR will detect that as a threat, and it will start blocking them from your network. So um, what it will do is it will actually isolate that computer completely out of your network and will start blocking that computer from accessing your network. And it will notify you saying that one of your computer has been compromised, so you can actually take the next action to either run firewall scanning, or you can actually run wire scanning, or you can do whatever you want. You can reset that computer so it does not have that particular phishing, or does not have that particular virus or ransomware. So this is a early protection method you can actually use. So instead of using just a dumb switch in your network, we recommend using an Adra NDR switches. We have a lot of use cases that customers are using. So what it does, again, as I mentioned, is it does for it's monitoring LAN scans. So if there's any scanning between your computer, it will start blocking that computer within that network as well, and it will isolate that device into by its own network, so it does not infect other devices. uh, we have the use cases that we have seen for Adra NDR. We have some use cases. We have a government project that uses Adra NDR. They already have their internet, have their own router firewall. We still recommend using those devices to protect additional protection from internet, and then have the core switch that goes to either the server farm as well as the user's computer. So you want to protect your most important assets. Usually that will be your server farm. So so the switch that is connecting to the server farm, or like iSCSI, the like QNAP NAS servers, or VMware servers, or database servers, or any kind of other servers that keep your important applications online, you want to protect them from any kind of threat. So you want to have Adra NDR installed in front of that servers. So let's say if the PC gets infected, the first thing we'll try to do is we'll try to contact your server farm to infect them. But because Adra NDR is in front of them, it will start blocking them, and it will not allow them to access your server farm. So that's being protected as well. So that's one of the use cases we have seen, is a government project. Another use case if we see Adra NDR is hospital. They're using this Adra NDR in front of the RD department. So again, research and development department, they want to make sure that those are protected computers and nobody can snoop into them or infect them and get access to all the important data that is done within that particular devices. So in a hospital scenario, they're installing this Adra NDR in front of the R&D department, and they're using regular switches for other devices as well. Another use case is small business. So again, they're using in front of the two AXSI server. So because they hold a lot of important data, they're using this server in the front of. They're using Adra NDR in front of their servers. So that's another great important feature that are another use case for Adra NDR. Again, we still recommend using firewalls. You can still use regular switches for regular devices because you don't want to replace all the devices with Adra switches. If you can, that's a great feature, but you still want to have the security feature available on most of your important assets. That will be your server farms or EXSR servers or research department, or most important servers within your locations. You want to make sure they're protected behind Adra NDR. So that's another great feature that customer can use. And what switches do we support? We have the QGD 1602 and the QGD 1600. Those those are our regular switches that you can convert them into Adra NDR. We have licenses available for converting them to Adra NDR. So for a reseller, you can provide this as an additional service for your customer. You can, when doing the installation or when speccing a project, you can actually recommend them to use Adra NDR as an additional security method onto their location, so they can use that as well. So we have two options for you, and we have both of them are 16 ports. So you have enough ports, and those are PoE ports, and you want to also add PoE devices as well. All right, and then and the last thing I want to talk about is QNAP partner program.
Yeah, so that's yeah, we have our partner program that we just redesigned here. So our QNAP partner program is for US-based partners out there who see customers face to face, who have relationships with our distribution channels, and who are looking to for different tools, different types of benefits that QNAP can help out to generate more business opportunities, revenue streams. Some of the benefits we have is dealer registration. We also have NFR demo units, and we also have our loaner program. So yeah, you can visit our website here. We'll send a follow-up email with our website here, but if you want to take a quick snapshot of it, this is our QNAP partner program that has all of our benefits and also how to register. Or you can email us with any questions regarding our partner program at resellerinfo_us@qnap.com. All right, so now we're going to open up the floor to a little Q&A. If anybody has any questions on anything that we've discussed, please feel free to ask away.
We have a question that is cloud manageable for multi-location? You can so I'm not sure if the question, I have to confirm on that question, but if it's the Q Center is an appliance you need to install on a location like a VMware installation or a QNAP NAS. So it cannot be cloud managed as of yet, but you can install it at a location like a VMware location or Hyper-V location. So that's a question that is that's the answer. All right, if you guys have any further questions, please feel free to add them in the questions options on your webinar. Another question is, can Q Center be installed at any QNAP NAS? So yes, any x86 based QNAP NAS, you can have a Q Center installed. It could be a 2-bay NAS all the way to all the 24-bay NASs. Q Center is not a resource intensive application, so you can have a smaller NAS that can manage multiple locations from your Q Center. So you don't need to worry about having a powerful NAS because it's not a resource intensive application. Another question is, can I update firmware on multiple locations at the same time? Yes, as I mentioned before, you can select multiple QNAP NASs and then update them together. You just need make sure that you need to let the customers know that you're updating the firmware. So because the QNAP NAS will reboot after the firmware update is finished. So you want to do this when they're not using the NAS. So.
Another question here: can you power down any NAS remotely with Q Center?
No, you cannot power down a NAS remotely from Q Center. That's something that we don't provide as of yet, but it's not recommended.
You can do that with Q Manager, right?
Yeah, Q Manager is the application for your phone. So the customers can install Q Manager and then power on and power off devices.
All right. Well, it looks like we ran out of time here. We're at the end of our webinar, but we really want to thank everybody who joined us today. We're going to send a follow-up with everything that we've covered today. We'll send you a follow-up email, also information regarding our partner program as well. Please keep an eye out for our upcoming webinar series. We'll be sending out a schedule of updated webinars. So you can also check on our website for any upcoming webinars. But for now, we're signing off. Thank you, Deval.
Thank you.
And please join us for our next webinar. And thank you all for joining. Until next time, thank you. Take care.